Hello, and welcome to Night Clerk Radio, episode 126, where this week, Ross and I are digging into part one of Sanctuary, or our part one, rather. Now, you might be thinking Sanctuary was a show about sumo. That's wrong. Sanctuary was a vaporwave, future funk, electronic music show put on in March, late March, largely by Nostalgia Lounge, which is a project of Crystal Eternal, who we've talked about on the show before. And this was really a whole weekend event. It was two parts. There was an actual live show in Ohio, and then there was a longer URL show featuring other artists on Twitch on the following day, like a Saturday, Sunday type thing, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And the whole point of Sanctuary is to be a charity show to raise money for TransOhio's, largely their emergency fund, to provide trans folk with, the funding they may need in times of like immediate hardship, especially as a result of the current oppressive wave of anti-trans legislation that's been rolling out over the past couple months. It was a super successful show. I think they had a great live turnout. They had a great charity turnout, raised several $1,000s, probably more. I think you can still continue to donate because there's still links on a lot of the sets we'll talk about today. There will definitely be one in the show notes. So this, if you'll indulge me to ramble a bit in this intro, Ross, this episode was not terribly well planned by me because it sort of started off partially. We had talked about on our Patreon episode, or maybe the previous one, about the importance of like not letting all the artists' contributions to like a URL show die off, because there's sort of, you may get a sense of FOMO around the chat or being there in the moment, but in reality, as long as Twitch doesn't fuck with the VOD, and especially if the artist takes the time to archive their work, you can enjoy it like any other piece of music they create that they put on the Bandcamp or YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever. Mm-hmm. And around that time, also, people had started to post in the weeks following Sanctuary. A few people had started to post YouTube links of like, here's my set from the URL show, or here's, recording from the live show, or I put my live set, I just took the soundboard rip and put it on SoundCloud or something. And I was like, cool, we should do this as an episode. And then it kind of got mentioned that we were doing it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have, this Twitch rip of like all but 10 sets. It's like 12 hours of music and all this stuff. And it quickly, the scope of what was available from when I said we should do the episode to actually doing it exploded. And it just, quite frankly, is way too much to do justice in one episode. So this is going to be a two-parter. And anything that doesn't make it in two parts, I'm going to try to get into. We usually do these like grab bag episodes around Discord, for example. Mm-hmm. Probably sneak some into that if necessary, just kind of as stuff gets released. Yeah. It sort of trickles out in this long post-event tail. So the actual plan today is we're going to talk about kind of 8 sets. And this was, in a sense, kind of the original scope of what I thought. And the very scientific way I picked these 8 sets, where they were the first like 8 I had really copy and pasted out of Discord into a planning document. It was really like 10-ish, and then pruned down to the 8 that we kind of had a chance to listen to before hitting record. So if you shared with me your set, there's some great sets from people like Fiji and Majestic 12 and Starkey and stuff. And those we'll get to in a future episode. Also, someone on the Nostalgia Lounge Discord posted a link to, they basically ripped bootlegged. I don't know. Is it a bootleg if it's a Twitch VOD that doesn't exist? I don't know. But they had like all but 10 sets recorded. So there's like this big 30 gigabyte thing on archive.org we'll try to get to. And then I had spoken to Crystal Eternal a bit about getting like everything uploaded, but she's been super busy with some other personal stuff. So maybe that'll be in like a future part. So today we're just doing these 8. So before we get into like specifics, do you have any like broad thoughts, Ross? Unfortunately, I think next year, if it happens again next year, it's just up in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And I think my dog will be settled in enough as a rescue to like be left with like my parents or like boarded. Mm-hmm. It's tempting to just drive up to like Columbus or whatever for a weekend, because it's really not that far from where I am. It's like maybe at most 6 hours.
That's not bad. Yeah, not at all.
No, it's like going to, you going to Gen Con or something.
Yeah, even less than Gen Con. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gen Con's 8 hours for me, so yeah.
No, that's right, yeah.
I mean, Ohio is, I've done that before once for Origins, and that's 11 hours. It's a little rough in one night's drive. So But yeah, that sounds really cool. I might, I could. Well, I don't know if I want to brave taking a plane, but yeah, that's next
it'll
year.
Be in 12 months, so you'll have a chance to figure out whether or not you want to get on a plane. I got to get on the plane in June, so hey, the show may end after June.
Oh no,
depending on the status of air flight in the U.S.
Jeez. Yeah, broadly, one thing I like doing about this episode is Sanctuary is not unique in that doing like an online festival virtual show. And, these have been going on for several years. And so it's useful to talk about Sanctuary as sort of like an example of this kind of performance, because not only do we have a lot of interesting music, all these sets, there are visuals to accompany it. And there's some interesting stuff to talk about, like how they generate visuals and like what, the relationship between the music and the visuals. And so I like this as an excuse to talk about like, the artistic challenges and creations of visuals to accompany DJ sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you also see from these 8 that there's a wide and fun range at which people upload their stuff, depending on whether it's for the URL show, which a lot of these are for, or if they're actual live sets that play.
Yeah, it's very chaotic how all this stuff gets preserved. It's very ephemeral. Which there's a lot of reasons why it's ephemeral. One of which is not, we talk about how Vaporwave relies on plunderphonics to a degree and sort of, skirting or breaking copyright law. And boy, the visuals in this too. It's the visual equivalent of plunderphonics. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the other thing that I really liked, even just from these 8, and I'm sure when I get into that whole big archive.org upload, it'll even highlight more, is just I really appreciate, and this is true of a lot of these URL shows, just because they bring in people from all over, is just the range of genres. You have everything from like classic Vaporwave to ambient to like grimy industrial to like goth industrial pop. Breakcore. Yeah, I thought you liked the breakcore set. It's really all over the place, and it makes it a lot of fun. It's not just like 30 late night lo-fi sets or something. It could also be interesting, but I think when you have this much music, you got to have a little variety.
No, 100%.
Also, if you're about being inclusive, you got to be genre inclusive too.
Yeah, and you got to get artists who are willing to step up and, perform and for a community thing like this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is that I kind of had that thought. It's funny you mentioned that, because I kind of had that thought when I was thinking about this episode earlier, is that like, obviously it's so important and so difficult to be a show organizer, to do like what Crystal does, or like when Quiz does his big Vaporade, or Indy at Utopia District does big shows. But, much like the company needs the workers, it's really cool of all these people to step up and put out sets and put everything together and do all the work of visuals and organization and everything. So it's all just a big team effort.
Yeah, it's exactly
Provided
the kind of stuff.
Artists are cool and not dickheads to the organizers, which also can happen.
Oh no, drama.
I don't know if it happened at Sanctuary. I'm not talking about anybody specific. I just have heard people making weird demands.
Oh, geez.
Again, not related to Sanctuary that I know of, but
drama in a collaborative artistic performance. Like,
no,
I'm shocked.
No, never. Never.
Yeah, never. So yeah, let's dive in. I'm eager to get started talking about this. Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. So standard grab bag disclaimer on all these episodes. It's a lot of music to listen to, a lot to discuss, and we're not like a 3-hour podcast. So probably won't be any samples except for maybe an outro sample. And we're just going to talk very loosely about each of these and just kind of like impressions and vibe. It's implicit that they're all recommended and that I at least enjoyed all of them. Yeah. If I don't say it explicitly, but for very different reasons, it's all over the map in the best way.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go in the order. I just have them in a kind of like, not even like a genre order. They're just here in this planning document. So I'm just going to step through them in this order, Ross. So you're ready.
Yeah.
So first up, we have a set from Frozen Babylon with visuals from Crispy Doodles. Now, Frozen Babylon is somebody who I've been hoping to put out music because I know them from the Hot Takes Discord. And I knew that they had kind of done like industrial ambient, but hadn't heard anything new in a while. So it was really great to have a set. I really like this like mix of like spacey ambient and like a little dark ambient and like synth and industrial in there. And then I would love to know how Crispy sourced visuals for this. Because when I think of like, like visuals for a Vaporwave set, I admittedly think of a lot of like commercial rips or music video or like TV, like visual signal wave almost. And this is much more stylized, much more effect heavy. And
yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the source things I can recognize, like there's some from the old Ghost in the Shell. There are a lot of old 80s and 90s OVA anime, but like I think the technique here is layering. Like I know in like Photoshop you can create different masking effects where you layer something and it's like extruded or difference or subtracting like the color values from one layer to the other. So I think there's obviously a video equivalent of this, and so I think it's this densely layered tapestry of anime and like static and like just computer readouts and Japanese text, which creates this very heavily textured like anime entropy. It's really breaking down into its component RGB values. It's very, which matches the industrial kind of music that's playing. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. Is I think it's like Crispy's awesome at this. She does tons of visuals for either one of these other sets, but you see her name all the time. She has a great YouTube channel where she kind of does her own visual mixes or like music videos of tracks.
That's cool.
It's really, really cool. Really, really talented. But yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing that really fits the music, because this starts off like, ambient, and then there's like these like synth ostinatos. They're just kind of like these like repetitive, like bump, 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 kind of little synth strikes. And then through the middle gets much more industrial, and you have much more like, I think, obvious imagery instead of like abstract characters and colors. You have, like you said, like people you can see from stills, like Ghost of the Shell and stuff, like you said. Then it gets back to being more, even like more distorted and abstract, kind of as the music also kind of comes down to be a little more droning. So just like overall as a joint work, it's really cool. I'd love to know like the collaborative process for this too, like how much back and forth there is, or does the artist make the set and then they pass it off and the visual person does a pass? And is it iterative? Do they kind of like trust each other to just do it?
Yeah. Big shout out for one of the samples used in this, I think around 17 minutes in, where I didn't recognize it at first. It's like, what is this? This is familiar. They've samples one of the speeches the villain uses from the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd movie, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, it's really good, because like it's showing these anime visuals. It's like, is this just from a really bad anime from like the 90s that I never heard of, and like the dubbing of it? And but no, it's like, wait a minute, I recognize this. This is the fucking bad guy from the Stallone Dredd movie.
Armando Sante.
Yeah,
it's when they first fight after he realizes that he's like framing Dredd. That's right. Yeah. It's 1710. Yeah. Okay.
Very good. Very, very
I
good
remember
poll.
the Lost. Yeah. Need more of that in there. Very, very fun set. Great visuals. So there's going to be a lot of genre whiplash as we move back and forth between sets here. Next up, I have on my list is Mr. Hustine live at Sanctuary 25. And this is like atmospherically the polar opposite of the Frozen Babylon set, which this is all just like funk and disco. Just 25 minutes of just dancing.
Yeah, it's extremely good shit, like house music, kind of disco infused sort of house music. And
house disco funk, yep.
Really good visuals too. They're more like dance party aesthetic, like something you project up at a rave or a club, with like very like actual footage of like driving over a bridge, or just pure visuals that can animated visuals that go along with the music.
It's funny, the visuals, because when it's just like abstract colors and stuff, because especially for the first, 5 minutes, it's like a lot of colors and lights and very zoomed in on, say, disco balls and stuff. I always associate that with like, because I don't have a lot of history going to clubs and stuff, I associate that with like visualizers, like getting my Windows Media Player or Winamp visualizer and then being like, oh my God, it moves to the music. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. No, there's a whole like industry. There's a whole, like, I think I talked about this before on the podcast, but there's a whole category of software meant for DJs to sync their music to visuals, and you program and animate them. And it's like, it's a whole thing. I mean, it's more meant for like the Coachella, sort of set, trying to do huge shows. So it's a very like, there's a lot of money involved, but like it's in that kind of tradition. I have no idea how Mr. Hustine did this, but like I'd never heard of him beforehand, but I'm definitely gonna be looking up some more of his music.
Yeah, I think they've been producing stuff for a while, but it's interesting because I've seen the name around for a long time, but they also say that this is the first time they performed all their own music and made all their own visuals. So it could be like a turning point, being, more self-directed in what they put out or how they approach it. I don't know. It's interesting, but it's just like a great danceable set. It's just so funny how to get back to forth, because it's like, it's quite frankly sandwiched between like two darker industrial, one which is like very controlled, this is Frozen Babylon, and one which is very chaotic, which is KJ Valium. So it's funny having these like this like sandwiched in there. Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say other than like it's a really fun funk set. It's just like a really fun dance house funk set.
Yeah, extremely good, very upbeat. I'm going to be looking at more, going back through Mr. Hustein's discography and like listening to see what else. Yeah, it's very fun.
Really good flow from track to track and everything. Next up, now this is the first of these sets. This is actually KJ Valium live in Columbus, and it's like a 360p video of just kind of slightly off, like slightly behind set. And it just totally works because a lot of his music, goes to like the introduction. This is a longer set because the live sets are 45 minutes, whereas I think the Twitch sets are like 20 to 25 to kind of keep things moving. Because, the live show was, 10, 12, maybe not even that many, but was a smaller group, right? You just can't get as many people to travel as you can to upload a video to you so you can stream it on Twitch. So you really get to see like the whole live performance, crouching down to play on their laptop, yelling into the microphone. In the back half, somebody else. I didn't see like a features for another artist name.
I want to know who the drummer is. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like a drummer that shows up and is like banging on percussion.
Yeah.
Joining in later.
Really going into it. Yeah. He's really locked in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a really interesting, like to see it actually as though you were at the club. And the Grady 360p is actually kind of an added bonus. It's almost like, you found an unsecured webcam and you're spying on them.
It's a very haunted video. Like it could really be cut up and turned into like horror found footage.
Yeah.
Just because it's low res, but it's also, obviously it's dark. So there's a lot of like noise in the actual image because you're kind of pushing that sensor in terms of what it can do, whatever it was shot on. But like I said, it really works because KJ does a lot of this like industrial, darkish ambient, but also I didn't know he like sang over tracks too. So that was cool to see live. I really only listen to some of the more instrumental stuff. And then, to have the drummer show up halfway through and just kind of be like a jam almost for the back half it was fun. Yeah. One thing that's like makes the video haunted to me is like exactly where it is, because it looks like it's slightly back, like stage left, because he's the laptop on the ground and the control, like DJ controller. So it's like he's like facing away from you, but is that towards the audience? Because I don't really ever see people like.
Yeah, that's just a good question.
Like the perspective is disorienting where I don't actually know. Like you said, it's like, oh, like you're seeing it at the club, but I don't know. Is that true? It doesn't feel like it. It feels like a haunted, like third perspective that no one should have, which I also really like because I think it's just too dark to see the people.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have.
Well, there's no motion in the background. I think that's just the far wall in the back. Yeah.
There's a far wall, and then there's something with some lights being projected on it.
Or maybe there's like a little wall between them and the actual crowd. So like,
yeah, or they're standing at 90 degrees to the crowd because there's like clearly something being projected.
Oh yeah.
Over their shoulder on the right, which would face the crowd. I bet it's 90
degrees. Yeah.
It's just funny. It's just, I don't know why. It doesn't really, it's one of those things where like it doesn't really matter. But also I think it for some reason my brain gets hung up on it and then it makes it extra haunted. And then you have on top of that, like all this like electronic drone and noise and drums. It just makes for like a very accidentally effective set, I guess. Or purposefully. I shouldn't say accidentally. I should say purposely. Seeing some of these live performances and some of the ones that we'll talk about or we'll even talk about in part 2 are even like recordings of live performances, not necessarily video, just like the soundboard recordings. I think that contributes a lot to like wanting to try to go live next year just because I think it'd be good for me to get out.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, don't know if I said enough about the music, but yeah, I always like to.
I don't listen to as much industrial, I think, as you do, and it's good to get more exposure to that, and that's
I really just like I really like when it gets like really glitchy, especially like that last like 10, 12 minutes of the show.
Yes,
whereas a lot of like just gets much more just noise.
Yeah,
that's what I like more. So to genre whiplash back and forth, because boy, this is not really planned. Next up, we have more Crispy Doodles visuals, this time against a very lovely like Vaporwave / Signal Wave, whatever you want to call it, set from Brick Mason. We've talked about a bunch. Also there's, Hush Tones, which we've talked about. And this was for the URL show. You can tell it's about 20 minutes. Man, it's just a great Vaporwave set. Again, fun visuals, now that I'm kind of watching them instead of, full disclosure, I'm kind of like refreshing my memory, as we're recording. So actually seeing the Babylon and the Brick Mason sets back to back, I do see what you're talking about with a lot of the similar effects of like, at least in the first part of maybe masking out and distorting just subparts of an image and layering them on top of each other. Which really makes sense because you can do all kinds of stuff like you're saying in Photoshop, like all these like luminosity masking and everything. And but then it's interesting because the back half, and I guess it kind of stays pretty glitchy, more so than I remembered. So there's a lot of those effects, but instead of as much anime, there's a lot of like footage of commercials and like
Japanese commercial. It looks like it's kind of hard to tell. Like car commercials. There's an aquarium, like
sign-off cards for TV shows. Yeah, it's a Signal Wave classic. You got WCVB TV in Boston, stuff like that. And musically, there's some stuff that is just allowed to just go, which I like. There's a long monologue about internet cafes in the back half.
Yeah, that monologue, man, with the vintage Apple Macintosh video footage is really peak Vaporwave. Yeah, I really like Brick Mason in general, and so this is one of my favorite sets that I've listened to, experienced so far, I guess I should say.
It's true, yeah. You really get the multimedia experience here.
A really good collaboration and just, really good slush wave and just classic Signal Wave as well. So,
yeah, I think what really, I agree. And I knew kind of initially that if it was like that kind of slush stuff that I'd like it, but I really do like this is why I think the URL sets are interesting because I don't know if you would do this for a live set. Maybe. I would love to know where like the last 5 minutes are just a monologue and like synth drone under it. And that would be really interesting to do that to live, like a group of people standing there waiting to dance, like a big future funk artist just wrapped up. And then you come on and just put on your like,
the whiplash,
pensive, nostalgic, like slush wave, Signal Wave.
Unless it's towards the end of the night and you're just trying to get everybody to leave the club. Like this is like, get the fuck home. Like we got to lock up in an hour,
Yeah. Not of course, parenthesis complimentary because I just really liked it. Like that's the part where I really kind of locked in because it just stood out of like, made me think about like, God, URL shows give you such an opportunity to do just something really different.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they did on it.
This is, again, like I'm talking about the visual equivalent of Blunderphonics because you're getting all this like audio from like some terrible thing about net cafes, but also like Apple, Macintosh instructional videos and ads. And then you're layering in stuff for, like, it looks like a rip off Matrix code, just layering on layering on layering. And really creates this really interesting visual cacophony. And yeah, it's something you can't really. It's easier to get away with when it's like this ephemeral, like streaming performance because the copyright ID things aren't as easily able to tag it. If it was like preserved or sold in a physical format, people would be like, oh, well, you're ripping off this copyright holder or whatever. But it's just.
There's that. Yeah. I also think comparing the stream to a live, I think it would just feel so different if you're standing in a room full of people. And maybe, I don't know if that's better different or worse different, but I'm just trying to think of like.
This would be the kind of live performance that would be good. Like, I've heard about some like ambient live performances where they provide like pillows and like it's a nice room and you're just supposed to lie down and vibe to it. And like if it was more of a lounge, like where you're just kind of like chilling out and just soaking
like a whole installation art piece.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be amazing. That would
be really cool.
Yeah, you could just meditate upon and just really, in a dark space with others that are all sort of like similarly minded and you're, maybe take an edible or something, I don't know. Like, whatever helps you, man. Like that's, I think could be incredibly peaceful and, or just a memorable experience for sure.
So continuing on with someone who's doing something really interesting with URL sets and doing something different. Our next artist is Via, who did a 25-minute live set. And this one stood out to me both from a genre standpoint, because it's like industrial goth synth. It's like a little poppy in the drums sometimes, like a little more upbeat in the drums than you might expect. But the show itself is really cool because it's a live show. Well, it's a URL set, but they recorded it like a live show. And I was saying that like, obviously stylistically very different, visually genre wise, everything. But I was reminded a lot of like Discoholic shows where he does like these like pretty high effort live productions for URL sets of like multi angles of him like dancing, performing, playing instruments, singing, all that cutting around. And this is like that, where it's kind of like a multi-camera live performance. They're standing in like a dark room. They're in front of a lit screen that's showing visuals. There are multiple cameras, and it's sort of like meta at times because there'll be angles where you can see the lights or other microphones, or there'll be angles where you like just the LCD screen from one of the other cameras is like in the corner of the frame for a while.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of reminds you that it's like this multi-camera setup, but still live. So I thought that was a lot of fun on top of, really standing out genre-wise, like I said.
Yeah, it's very underground. Like it is definitely shot in someone's bedroom or living room, and
it's very DIY punk rock in like the best way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always cool when like you project cool visuals on someone's face, so it looks very, very cyberpunk, when there's all these red vertical lines on the singer's face. And it's extremely good shit. This DIY punk is the best way to describe this for the 21st century. Like it is taking consumer tech and creating some really interesting and vital art. So again, this is also getting me outside my comfort zone in terms of listening to music. I don't normally.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Yeah, it's cool. And also, I think they're like I hope I'm saying it right, VIA. I don't know if it's VIA, but I've heard it's VIA, I believe. It's cool because like they're, I think, a fairly new artist because they link up Bandcamp, but it just has a few singles. It has like one of the tracks that Never Cool that they perform in this is like one of the singles, and has two other singles. But I didn't see like a full release, and it looks like they're working with Fire Tools. He's like a really cool musician, producer in the Vaporwave scene. Does a lot of actually like mixing and mastering. And I think that's like a big thing that Fire Tools does, because I think she has ads in Listen Corp. I think that's one of the full page ads is Fire Tools.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Great person to partner with for a new artist. And curious to see when they have like a whole album come out. It'd be cool to check out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm on the Listen Corp email list, by the way. I keep getting new reviews and stuff like that.
They're busy.
Yeah.
It's cool to see.
Cranking it out.
That's right. So next up is the URL set from Nyoka Shoje, another cool person I know from the Hot Takes Discord. And we're again going to switch genres a bit into, this is a variety of like a little bit of like industrial ambient, but then just like spacey chill ambient through the middle. So it's unfortunate. The only thing is like, it's unfortunately a little on the shorter side, being, low under 20 minutes, but then goes through some like space ambient, but then there's like some great like bass through the middle, and then back into spacey ambient, and then into like slush through the end.
Which matches the visuals.
Yeah. So I'm guessing they did their own visuals.
I think this is footage like old NASA or some sort of, like space, like deep space video of
totally.
Like the sun and like the stars.
Black holes. And accretion discs. I see an accretion disc around 15 and a half minutes.
Yep. But like it's obviously, altered and edited to make it more spacey, I guess. But it's I wonder the source of it, but like perfect matching of visuals and music. So
yep. And Nyoka's one of those people who I've wanted to do on the show in some capacity, because I do like their approach to like ambient. I guess it just hasn't come up for no reason other than it hasn't come up, but I'm not done making shows. So it will come up at some point. And they've been on like other compilations and stuff we talked about. So, if we could get them into a new album episode, that would be really, really cool if the timing works out on that. Because I really dug this set. I thought this was a great ambient set. Yeah.
Very chill, very, very interesting and very relaxing in the heart of space.
Yeah. So, and they've done a lot of like, what is their most recent stuff? Because they've been producing a lot. It was the end of November of last year. It was a little 4-track EP. At least on this. I think they have a couple other projects. I'm blanking on the names of them, unfortunately. Apologies. But a lot of really great like nature wave back there too. Like they have a very distinct style. You've probably seen at least one of the covers of their albums, because they have these, a lot of their albums have covers where it's a shot of trees, but with like sunlight, like really, really blooming, blown out through them.
Oh, interesting.
Like the album Hidden Kingdom and stuff from a couple years ago is an example of that. definitely glad we got to talk about them directly in some capacity. But I agree. I think the next time a new album lines up, have them. I'm going to try to target that.
Hell yeah.
All right. And then we close out with two strong. We're back into the realm of dance, which is really what I expected most of. So next up, DJ Cena. John Cena himself showed up live at Sanctuary in Ohio.
Yeah.
No, I heard him at least.
Yeah.
You know, John Cena's been working really hard to become a great DJ. You know, Crystal Turnell's been helping him out a lot.
Yeah.
Helping him with samples. Yeah. So he's really gotten his sample game down. This set has all kinds of stuff like Scatman John. Is in there. There's Sandstorm is in there.
Yeah, this is the kind of mashup that you would associate someone with like Girl Talk with, you know, like that style of mashup, pop dance music,
learning.
Turning all of pop music into this one extremely smooth mix. I mean, it's only like 22 minutes long, but like it's incredibly dense and layered with hundreds of samples from God knows how many songs. It seems like, and it's really fun. Now this particular set was on SoundCloud, so there's no visuals that I was aware of. I mean, obviously when they did the
there
show,
have to have been somebody recorded the set, but
the SoundCloud version, alas, lacks that. But it's I mean, I love a good mashup. they're a little like candy for me. I just gobble them up, and So I don't want to eat my vegetables. I just want the pure ear candy joy of mashups.
Just endless mash together. Pop tracks.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
30 minutes.
The mouth sound trilogy of albums ruined me for music.
Yeah, but this is like fun because it's all that, but it's genre transformed on top of it too into like nightcore almost. It's like really high tempo EDM. So it's almost like, has these comparisons to ours, but it's almost kind of like the way that DDS takes samples and turns them into like hyper pop.
Oh yeah.
It's like taking that and turning it into like chaotic, like hyper chaotic. Well, they tag it as Daria Core and SoundCloud. So I'm going to go with Daria Core. That's a great name. Of like this just really chaotic, energetic set of like really, really expertly cutting samples in. They come back and they come in and out. So it's not just like, oh, we're going to sample this for like 2 bars here. It comes in and out, and like it really is like a cohesive single track rather than like 8 tracks with each one.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. It's and they never. Yeah, the transitions are so smooth, and like you said, they keep coming back and forth.
Yeah,
it's not like Girl Talk in that respect. It is just one long ass track.
Yeah, like Neil C and Girl Talk and like some of that stuff. Or Girl Talk like all day is like kind of feels like one track. Like all those albums feel like one track. But yeah, like you'd mentioned the mouth sounds, and those are like distinct tracks of like I'm mashing these two things together with like a little bit of this, and maybe there's all-star in all of them, but it's really not the same as this sort of, having like 30 minutes of seamless transitions is really fucking hard.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
So just really, really skillful DJ work in pulling it off. But unfortunately, no visuals to commentate on. I'm guessing if you were there, you just saw a controller with a little crossfade moving in on its own. I don't know. No, I think he actually wears a special propeller beanie and coveralls so you can actually see DJ Cena properly.
Okay.
That's what I understand. Again, never been to a show. So closing us out today is a set from Jungshiro, aka Isaac of Hot Takes. And I just want to say I want to applaud him. I think it was really brave to just do 40 minutes of original electro swing music. It's a little inside joke. It's a little test to see if he listens. There's an electro swing rivalry going on. Anyway.
Okay.
No, seriously though, it is 40 minutes, but it's all great breakcore.
Yeah.
I think of him as primarily a DJ. He's really fucking good at it. It's funny because, we talk about like some of the more industrial stuff being more up my alley. This track I think of this set as being much, much more up your alley than mine.
Yeah.
Like it's full of artists I had never heard of. I really enjoyed listening to it. Again, 40 minutes of like pretty seamless transitions is really hard to do. This is a live set. So there is a YouTube link I should have shared with live footage, which actually this does clarify more of the, there's DJ Cena's leaving in the background.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I should have linked this to you earlier. There's a can of PBR in the foreground at one point.
Oh my God.
So this is Gay Luigi, which is Luigi with the trans flag. That's a little like in joke in this group. Okay, I see people dancing now. This makes more sense. This is like solved the mystery of the KJ Valium camera angle to me in some sense. There's a random feed.
Yeah, it's to the side. Yeah.
But great energy, very skillful DJ. Seeing the visuals is fun now, which I kind of talked about them a bit earlier. I was going to mention the Gay Luigi thing, which is like an inside joke, but it's been like a great chud litmus test in the community. If people get mad that you respond to everything with like a little Luigi in front of a pride flag emote, and they're like, Luigi's not gay. Luigi's not gay, man.
Wow.
And then they get mad and leave. It's a great litmus test for that.
Yeah. Very good filter.
So Young Shiro / Gay Luigi, excellent job on the breakcore set.
Yeah, it's really good breakcore. Breakcore, I've realized there is a difference between drum and bass and breakcore is that I don't feel exhausted after listening to 2 hours of drum and bass, but after 40 minutes of breakcore, I am exhausted. It is a lot. It is so intense. It's such a fast genre. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but yeah, it's crazy tempo. Yeah, it's I have to
fun. Imagine as a DJ that's tiring too. That's gonna be like a pretty big adrenaline rush to keep that energy going live.
Yeah, and you can see actually just skimming through this, like 26 minutes in, he's really going at it. Like,
he is.
really
not slacking.
Yeah, he's not just pushing play. He is really working the controller. Good for him. Good for Gay Luigi. Yeah,
I'm so proud of Gay Luigi and DJ Cena.
Yeah.
Was there a link to YouTube on the DJ Cena? I don't see it. I may have missed it.
My footage captured at the event on the SoundCloud page.
Oh, I know for
for the Cena.
For I was looking at the Cena set had a similar link. I do not Cena one, but maybe I'll look around, see if that exists. There you go. Keep it going. All right, so that's the 8 that we wanted to cover today. I think lesson learned is that from the live set, seems like the live show is super fun. A little like post fact, not quite FOMO, but like it would have been cool to be there at some point in the future if it happens again. Seems like a lot of fun. And then the small sampler of the URL sets, we did like a handful out of the 30 or like 40 there was a ton of music. It was like 11 hours or something of that Twitch stream. We're going to try to get to more of that and other people's live sets too in a part 2. So just really cool to see such a successful show and to see it archived so that even though we couldn't be there either on the stream or in person, that you can kind of still experience it and like share in that community is really cool. So thanks to everybody who participated and who uploaded or archived the performances.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to finishing this off next time we cover this. Because, there's so much music in such a short amount of time that it's a joy to dig through it all. Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling. Street light,
All right. Thank you so much for listening to us. Check out Sanctuary 2025. As we were saying, definitely be back with a part 2 to get to all the other artists we didn't get to cover this time around and dig into more of those Twitch shows and dig up more live archives from the live show. Really looking forward to it. Next episode, going to be back to new music. I already have mine picked out. I know what I'm going to do. But yeah, going to find 2 recent albums. I'm only going to pick one this time, Ross. Make it easy on you.
Oh.
We'll talk about them, standard music conversation. If you like what we're doing, you want to check out more of it, we do have 50-ish now bonus episodes on our Patreon, Nightclerk Radio at patreon.com. Got a cool Discord server, other rewards. Things of me rambling about mountain climbing, even though I don't climb mountains.
We posted one of our older Patreon episodes to the public feed recently.
That's right. Yeah, there's the week of this recording. So the Monday, we're recording on Friday, but that Monday we posted an old episode, bonus episode 7, which was Corporate Art and Vaporwave. So you can go check that out. It's funny because it's an older recording and you can tell like in the audio quality and like the editing quality and everything. But it's a fun little discussion about, corporate art styles and the quest to be inoffensive. So definitely check that out too. And the plan is to take all those older episodes and get them out from behind the paywall. If they're, been sitting back there 3 or 4 years, there's no point in them sitting just there. So goal is to have those kind of trickle out over the next year or so, maybe 1 or 2 a month. I haven't really figured it out yet, but yeah, if you want to check that out, that'd be cool. You can also find us at Night Clerk Radio, pretty much any social media site you should want to go to, which I think these days is basically Blue Sky. There's others. Don't worry about it. It's nightclerkradio at gmail.com or just regular.com. You can probably find us on other Vaporwave Discords poking around. However you do choose to check it out, if you can take a minute to click a like on YouTube or whatever, it helps out. It's useful, not required, but matters more than even I realize. Sometimes you can really tell when people like click the algorithm button, because you definitely notice an increase in numbers. The numbers go up, which matters for somebody, not me. So thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with part 2 probably next month. And until then, thanks again and catch you later. Bye.
Bye.